Welcome to the monthly Cloud Leadership Circle meetup. Today's topic is a special one. It was a request from a community member who wanted to understand more about cybersecurity, and so that is why we've chosen the topic of this month and why we brought in Abhishek and Ashish. And so without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Abhishek to give his presentation.
Thank you once again. Thank you for having me over here. Nice to meet you all. Happy to join and share my experience. So what I'm going to walk you through, I put some slides together and the agenda up here for you to have an idea of how we will be spending our next 20-25 minutes. Please keep the dialogue interactive. It doesn't need to be one side. It looks very boring otherwise. I will also throw a disclaimer that I may not know all the technical answers because there was an army of people behind me who helped me in getting some of the use cases executed. But certainly, I am on a journey to learn the new technology of AI. So if I don't have an answer for you right away, I promise you that I will research and get back to you. Okay, with that, a quick introduction on me. I've been in the space of cybersecurity for over 20 years. I've spent some good time with Fortune 500 companies in various roles as CPO and CISOs. And more recently, I was the CISO for a mid-sized biomed and pharmaceutical company out of the Bay Area. So let me start this topic of framework first. The reason I added this slide is because when the dialogue of AI started happening, and especially with the introduction of ChatGPT in the enterprise arena, you may have often heard about the employee using ChatGPT to get the jobs done. And this is mostly 2022, 2023, when the buzzword started really floating around. And similarly, we saw very much an influx of our company data basically being published out for no reason. For example, there was a data science engineer who actually mistakenly opened up the high performance HPC computing environment on LinkedIn, and unknowingly, because he thought he's going to find out some more information, but inadvertently, he exposed the HPC environment on the public network. So the first thing what we did was we started laying out some groundwork. Obviously, the communication went out that, we don't have a policy, but the company's stand is that you can't use, tools like ChatGPT anymore, especially in relation to what you do at work. And we gave examples of why it could be harmful for your company. And then, immediately I formed a committee that really speaks for the best practices in the industry. So some of the things that you can consider for your company if you are experimenting or doing some projects related to AI, US NIST AI risk management framework, Microsoft responsible AI standard framework that will help you understand the overall context. And then there is a European Union. If you're a global company, it's always good to get a perspective from European counterparts. So ENISA framework for good cybersecurity practices for AI will be helpful for you to make reference to. So highly recommended that take an approach, form a community that can help you understand the business need of AI in your environment, and you can simply adapt some of these suggestions made through these frameworks that can help you draft a quick policy around AI and the use of AI. From cybersecurity, strictly from cyber standpoint, my goal is to make sure that we become smarter, quicker, and the best use cases that we implemented in our environment was basically doing some prediction modeling around where the possibility of a breach is higher, ingesting a large amount of data. If you're a CISO practitioner, you know that how much data becomes a headache as soon as your attack surface opens up and you want to digest and learn more. And then lastly, detecting the new threats. Again, the volume speaks for your budget. So you put where the focus where the opportunity is, and certainly there are opportunities to reduce the amount of workload your SOC team is having. So some of the use cases as I go down in the presentation, I'll share what we were able to achieve by using AI in cybersecurity. Any questions, any thoughts anybody wants to share? Okay, let me just then keep going. So what I did with my team was last October, we basically signed up for Microsoft Security for Copilot. And we had no idea what it meant at that time. But we knew, or I knew, that there are two things that I definitely need help with. One was that my attack surface area was increasing consistently. When I joined my company, I had only 10% visibility into my network, meaning data, asset, and so forth, identities. And within 18 months, that increased up to 35%. However, my budget never increased. The expectation was to continue, keep doing what you are expected to do. And realistically, it's not like how IT financing works in cybersecurity. Certainly you have to have more risk-based approach even when you are allocating resources to identify, detect, protect your environment. So I thought that adapting the AI model in my SOC environment will be helpful, but it was a double-edged sword for me in the sense that if I'm introducing something new, then I'm sort of adding more on my people's plate to do more, which is, doing more with what you have at the moment, which is a difficult, selling point to your team whose whole sole job is to only make sure that not one mistake happens, because we have to be right every time. The bad actor has to be right only one time. So it's a high pressured environment that we operate in. So just to show you what Microsoft Security Copilot really consists of, there are 6 key pillars in this area which bring together the Microsoft security model and offers LLM based approach in how you can use these products and solutions to safeguard some of your existing capabilities that you had. What it means is your data collection capability increases. You can process it faster, investigate, and then respond. And I'll show you how as we go down. We used it. One key thing, either you use Microsoft, I'm using Microsoft as an example, but if you use any other platform, understanding the reference architecture is very, very crucial. So it's not just that you have a security capability in a certain siloed environment. What your overall multi-cloud and cross-platform architecture looks like, you have to be aware of that. Because if you're not, then inadvertently you may be exposing that environment to a cyber capability that you're not sure of. For example, if you are looking at Microsoft Enterprise Suite, can you bring a third-party plugin? Yes, you can. But you have to understand the AI capability of that plugin before. For example, if you used to bring Salesforce in your architecture, then understand Salesforce AI capability before you start plugging in. Because once you turn on your switch to do some sort of prompt-based engineering, then your engineers are very creative and they can really make it really interesting for you. And I'll tell you why. Because where the costing model of how the AI-based costing models are, it's completely different from the traditional way of, like, there are no more licenses in the AI world. So I have a slide, that I'll share on that. So this is just to show you that user reference architecture, Google, AWS, they all have similar diagrams. So make sure that you understand the technology architecture and the cyber aspect associated with that technology architecture. Again, because this is the cloud audience I'm talking to, so and Ashish will probably take you more deeper. But as a reference, when we looked at Microsoft architecture, we definitely made efforts to understand our multi-cloud tenant, which is basically AWS, Azure, and then some aspect of SAP and Salesforce. So pretty wide from uh, attack surface standpoint. And then these are heavily deep technology platforms too. So that was also another effort that it took for us. The good news is that we knew that our approach is going to be security adaptation framework, which is a thought process that Microsoft has established. And within that, access control, security operations, security governance, asset protection, innovation security. So it helped us framing up our approach when we looked at the architecture and then started developing a solution.
Can I ask a quick question, Abhishek?
Sure.
This is fantastic. In Microsoft realm of things, did they have a concept of SIM solutioning? I know they use Sentinel. Specific to AI usage, were you able to kind of look into that aspect, or was that something that had to be custom built for your environment?
That's a great question. I do have a slide on the use case actually, but to answer your question is yes. Actually, the advantage of using Microsoft Security for Copilot is that all your SIM that will reside within the Sentinel environment is fully AI automated. You have to develop your own prompts for sure, but once they are defined, you can start using it. In fact, automating it also.
So that helps. The reason I asked is because that helps your problem of getting visibility that you did not have earlier. Correct? It alleviated some of that problem.
I always had visibility. I will not bring something, especially at this point, I will not bring something that I'm not visible, meaning I don't understand the environment. So I don't want to bring two technologies together, meaning a new environment and AI and learn from it. The approach I took was that we have a large amount of data set coming into an environment, but I have only limited sources to look at that data. So we were not looking at every data because of the lack of resources. And what AI helped was actually streamline that workload that we have in our environment. We were really not paying attention to all level 1, level 2, level 3s, and we were seeing that some of the malicious behavior was leaking into our environment, that the user was clicking on some emails. But now with AI, level 1, level 2 was completely off the charts from my team. Only if they really break something, we get alerted on. Level 3, we still considered, more closer to hard. Yeah. And if I'm using too many lingos like level 1, level 2, level 3, I'll show you a slide. But these are basically SOC tickets that are assigned with the severity, and people are expected to respond, based on how the severity is.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm rushing through, hoping that everybody's understanding everything what I'm saying. So if you're not asking question, I'm taking that you all know what I'm talking about. But please don't hesitate to stop me. And if I'm not going into every slide line by line. My goal is to give you a high-level overview, and certainly then you can go and take a lead, a deeper look into the dialogue. So how does Copilot work? This is something what Ashish was asking me earlier also, that the overall aspect of the framework works is that the user prompts are associated with your products, and those are basically designed to work the way they should be. And when you bring them into our Microsoft Security for Copilot environment, there is a process called grounding, and what that grounding process does is it does pre-processing of all the data the Copilot can access and collect, and then it basically, I'll use less of a technical language, but it modifies the prompts. So what your products, even Microsoft products that are running AI Copilot, or products like Salesforce or AWS or GCP, all are based on prompts. So when the prompts are run in those environments, that is the output from that. And that comes into the Microsoft environment. So it does sort of a grounding process of pre-processing all that data, modifying the prompts, pushing back some of the questionnaire within that environment, and then does some post-processing. And it's a iterative process, and it becomes better and better every time you execute them, or it executes itself by itself. And that essentially makes your environment really, really smart. There's a question. Can I share that deck? Yeah, absolutely. I will post it on my LinkedIn account and you can access it right away. Okay, so just, I'll skip some of this. My whole messaging from this slide is that Microsoft Copilot not only allows its own products to process the prompts, but it also has third-party plugins that will allow you to run the whole prompt environment. Again, there is a component of threat intelligence. It's all about how you want to use and how much more smarter you want to become. So either you use your own prompts and you think, this is my world, I'm good at it. But a true CISO wants to know everything. That is what the passion is. And it's in technical terms, it's called understanding or having your visibility to your attack surface. And it's not possible to know every dimension day one. So there's a journey to get to that end point where you know everything about everything in your company. And that is where every time you become smarter, the more attack surface, more assets, more identities, more data you can ingest into your environment, it becomes smarter by itself. That's a major advantage of it. In my environment, I was digesting data from network. I was digesting data from all the asset management tools. Both IT and OT technology had all the identities, human and non-human identities, and the behavior associated with those, meaning people going on some funky sites and doing funky things, people uploading, downloading data. So everything was being digested into, and there's a lot of threat intelligence that comes out of it. I'll give you one example towards the end on how the board was very interested and they got hooked up to all the data that we started showing them. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to speed up a little bit. I think some of it you all are really smart. You'll know the advantages of using AI or not using AI. Let me jump on to a use case, which is, let me just pick up SIM, because Ashish also asked that question. And probably you'll see SIM as a use case in your environment a lot more because SIM is expensive. And SIM changes very quickly, and SIM is like your holy grail, your Bible. You have to know what people are doing or what the connections are coming from, why are they coming in, who's going out. So many times you may have heard of products like QRadar, Splunk, and in a similar spirit, Microsoft has a solution called Sentinel. And we were using Palo Alto, Prisma, and Panorama, again, in different ways. And all our data was sort of fed into QRadar, but QRadar for many, many years have not been as advanced. IBM has not been investing a lot in that product. Recently, Palo Alto bought them out from IBM. I think yesterday there was a news that they completed the transaction. So we wanted to move our SIM logs into Sentinel, Microsoft Sentinel. And the main reason behind that was, again, the use of AI, meaning when based on certain principles that we have established in a product called XAB, it is a user behavior analysis tool, and there is a swim lane, which is basically your SOAR. What it does is that it creates smart algorithms for you to pay attention to where you can direct your resources, where the problem is. And the challenge that we had was we were not able to expand as our attack surface was growing quickly because of limitations, technical limitations of QRadar. So these were the enough conditions for us to move our data into Sentinel. Now, Microsoft does have a script. They do have technicians who have done this, and it's a very smooth transfer into your Sentinel environment. Where you would have to focus on that, how your team is going to start really using Sentinel. So the number one thing I will recommend you from this 30-minute dialogue is when you start thinking about AI, you have to really start thinking about the job that you want AI to do. So writing a prompt, and it's not like one-time exercise. Every time you go back to that whiteboard, drawing board, when you talk to your folks, the questions would be, what do you do? And the answer has to be like, I click this button, I do this. And the question is, why do you do it? Because so you have to go through the whole process. It's like a job description. Now you're defining it in a whiteboard, and really like, and it's a tough dialogue because you're sort of question people's job here. But the idea is to write prompts, define that whole role, and put that into your Sentinel environment. So next time, that same person, make sure that person you make that person understand that it's not about their job that will go away. It will make him or her smarter. He doesn't or she doesn't have to go and run a query, do correlations, and bring that data back, write up something. It can all be automated. Can save so much pain for so many people. So that is the main advantage of AI. The same process. The pain point is defining the role into a prompt and then executing a prompt and making sure you're getting the output. That is the most painful process because it's about people. They get very threatened by it. But if people are on board that this will make their lives easy, nobody is going to lose the job, that will be the best outcome of this exercise, meaning converting your traditional security into an automated environment. In the interest of time, I'm going to just breeze through and see if something is important, but it's mostly what I talked about, and there. The only thing I'll highlight in this case is understand the cost model basics before you start dialogue with any of the vendors. Everybody understands because the term SCU, Security Computing Unit, is the most important term. It's very expensive. And once you define your script for to be executed, and you have not really rationalized the finances behind it, and you think you're going to go back and cost saves, the way that it works is that once you build something and you think that your consumption is not going to be that much, rebuilding will be again the painful exercise. It's not like you disconnect it from something from somewhere. When you start designing your costing model and you know the cost upfront, and if you're going for, I think one SCU is about $35,000. We went and bought about 3 SCUs, and we later realized that we may have invested more money. That's when we realized that taking out 2 SCU is going to be redoing everything, meaning manually we have to reconstruct everything. It's painful. So just as a caveat, that understand the costing model, and it's not always easy, so it's okay. I mean, no heartburn. We go all learning from it. I've included some of the details around how many SCUs. Like I said, you probably need to consider when you do this. There are some options there. There are some responsible use of AI practices. I want to make sure I'm on time, so I will take a pause now. Sorry if I rush too fast. I know there's a lot to digest, and